Good morning, good afternoon, good whatever and whenever you're listening to this. I'm AG the Dad with Shit Talking Sundays. I am so passionate about something that I was just informed about. I kind of knew it was going on. I just didn't want to believe it. Just like you're probably not going to want to believe this, but the Oregon mom, she's in the news right now. She has, how can I put this without even being I'm mad. I'm mad. For the first time in Shit Talking Sundays history, I'm actually going to use my platform. I'm not even preaching bad, and I'm not even trying to preach bully, but I'm about to show you how we push back against people who want to bully their ideas upon us as parents. Because as a dad, I'm not cool with it. So what I did today, and this won't be a regular open, this is just the first open, so everybody out there understands why I created this. I have a woman out there who is on the school board that is in Oregon, obviously by me saying the Oregon mom. She's so passionate about her child and the children that she can't comprehend some of the things that our money, your money, is being wasted upon that could be served and used so much better, especially when in the United States, we're not ranked number one for education. Just in case y'all didn't know, I don't care anywhere in the United States. Yeah, maybe our colleges are elite, but our high schools on down, they're not up to par. And it's because there's a lot of wasted money that's going into a lot of greedy pockets. With that being said, welcome to Shit Talking Sundays. This is Shit Talking with Sensible Chery. Let me introduce you to her. What's going on? I mean, I don't know if I could give you a better intro than that. I'm so mad.
How's it going?
You can't come in calm after all that. I'm so mad that first of all, let me thank you for giving our children and the parents a voice.
Yeah, that's the point. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the schools right now. And I don't know how many people are aware of this, but with Oregon, they just passed a bill that requires us to have feminine hygiene products in all of the bathrooms. The big thing about that is that it has to include the boy bathrooms.
Boys, yeah.
And all the way down to the kindergarten level.
Okay.
And so we are diverting $5.5 million from our state school fund that could pay for 30 teachers a year to put tampons into boys' bathrooms.
Yeah, they need those. Last time I checked, as a man, we've miraculously started having menstrual periods. And man, for women, it's such a wonderful thing. I just know having to use these tampons as a boy, because get out of here. Get out of here. This is just a waste of our money. I'm so livid about it. This is just one of the things that they're doing. Can we just for one quick second just highlight some of the other things that they're doing? I mean, why is it even necessary that our curriculums in elementary school teach sex ed?
Yeah, they've definitely been pushing down to have comprehensive sex education all the way down to the elementary level. And we have a big issue with age appropriateness for a lot of this stuff. We have age restrictions on many things, but they are starting to bring stuff down to our children that is not necessary. It's over the top. And it really is just a waste of time and money. And we could be doing so much more for our kids. They're supposed to be the priority. We're supposed to put them first. And some of these changes that are happening, I do not understand how putting a focus or priority on this is going to improve the success and the education of our students as they graduate from school.
Right. Um, I'm dumbfounded that it would even pass. I mean, just common sense would tell you what would be the need. I mean, I'm hearing that the boys are taking tampons, shoving them in their nose. I mean, okay, maybe for the use of stopping a bloody nose, but that's even pushing it far. Uh, let's not even mention the fact that boys use, especially at that age, they probably find it really amusing, and they're probably flushing them down the toilet in handfuls, clogging up the toilets. And out of that 5.5 million, I'm sure that that's not even accounting for maintenance that has to be done to snake the drains to clear them of all that.
Right. And that's the thing, how are these things passing and they're not thinking of the long-term implications of what could happen? And I think you're right. That wasn't considered. In addition to that, it is one thing to push for them to be in the bathrooms, but then going down to the kindergarten level and they're supposed to have instructions. The problem, our K through 2 kids can't even read. So as a woman who's very familiar with toxic shock syndrome, if one of our children gets a hold of these and uses them improperly, who's liable for that?
Right.
It's going to be the school districts.
Well, how are you going to prove that?
Right.
You know how everything works. Reasonable deniability. Hey, how do we know she wasn't already doing that at home? Why? How did we teach them that this is? Well, we're just the vessel of providing them. But at what age? I mean, look, scientifically, it has been proven when a female only, about the age appropriate of when they're going to start their menstrual cycle. So I can understand maybe starting it at that age in only females' bathrooms all the way up. Because if they want to argue, well, what about transgender? Well, first of all, if a transgender woman who has not fully converted over, I don't think has any business in a opposite sex bathroom, just because, especially in the school level, because it leaves too much error for things to happen. And as a, it's just so crazy that right now, ironically, abortion has become illegal in a lot of states. And if we're going to allow these our children to be in both sides of the bathroom, boys can say, I identify as a girl, I'm going to go in the girls' bathroom, and girls identify as boys and go in the boys' bathroom, and they're just talking. They're just saying that's what they want to do. But when they get in the boys' bathroom, their boyfriend is taking them in the bathroom and impregnating them. So now we're giving them the place to hide out because you can't put cameras in the bathroom. What are you're gonna have a teacher, their job during every recess, every time a child wants to go to the bathroom, you're gonna escort them to the bathroom to make sure there's no other child in the bathroom. I mean, are you gonna just put the bathrooms in front of the office so you can physically see who's going in and out? I mean, that still isn't going to prevent any of that. So all of this, I mean, no disrespect to the LGBTQ community, but at some point, I know education is very important for our children and society to learn. Ignorance of life is not an excuse. So I know that there are people out there that recognize and identify as their own. Everybody has their own unique individualization of themselves. For me, okay, but please, how can we force those on children? I mean, we don't even allow our children to make any decisions until they're 18. Why are we trying to guide them on decisions?
Well, and that's a whole nother story in Oregon, because when it comes to our children, they do have the ability to make medical decisions without parents' consent at the age of 15. And so when these things, and my understanding is that there was a lot of good reasons for some children that just didn't have great parents and they were having trouble getting access to great medical needs. But now when we go to long-term implications from when that was originally passed, we now have 15-year-olds that can start puberty blockers. I mean, there's studies that show that we don't even have fully developed, consequences in our brain until we're 24. We have age restrictions on alcohol and cigarettes and when you can vote, but it's okay to start changing your body at the age of 15. That is just unacceptable and without parents' consent. It's gotten too far where that was one of the things when this passed through our state and it had bipartisan support. My understanding there was some things that had happened. It was in the the 11th hour that all of a sudden this bill started out great. Everyone had supported it because it was like, we want to make sure that there's at least 2 bathrooms in all of our schools that have these products. That is reasonable. That makes sense. But then all of a sudden, in the 11th hour, the verbiage was added that it must include boys' bathrooms. That makes no sense. Like, gender neutral and female makes perfect sense to me. But to go above and beyond and say, no, we need to include this in boys' bathrooms, how are we being financially responsible? Who's making this decision and who are they talking to? Because I know that all this information, it came out of our Portland area. But it's just like, have you actually talked to the whole state? When I did the interview with the Oregonian, they referenced 3 districts. They referenced Portland, they referenced Beaverton, and they referenced, I think it was Douglas District, all that had the ability or were going ahead full force, 200,000 that they've spent already to get these dispensers in these bathrooms, 300,000. And it's just like, well, have you really talked to the whole state? There was no backlash for this whatsoever from parents being concerned that, hey, maybe we could use this money to decrease the achievement gap that we're seeing from the pandemic. Maybe we could use this for supplies, interscholastic activities, special education. They have needs. Right. But instead, it's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and make sure that boys have tampons in the bathrooms. It makes no sense and it needs to stop. Right. And one of the things with Oregon is what I want people to know is you do have a voice. I've repeatedly heard that, no, it doesn't matter. The people that are in power, they make the decisions. And it's just like, no, we are the people. We have a voice and for us to use it. You okay?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just letting you. I was letting you talk and do your thing.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was an emergency.
No. I think I agree with what you're talking about. Just to make it clear to the LGBTQ community, I don't hate on them by any means. I just mean that it's unnecessary in the boys' bathroom. Gender neutral bathrooms, 100% I get. At least it gives you an option, and maybe that one can be a little bit more in the elementary school and maybe junior high level to some degree. I would hope that there's some type of method to monitor who's going in and when they're going in, because and that's where it gets complicated again, where I just think in schools, look, in most cases, I could be wrong. And if there's somebody out there that's in the LGBTQ community, please email me. I'm okay with learning. I mean, this is how we can make things better. But I don't even think you can get the surgery until after you're 18. So I understand girls who identify as boys and boys who identify as girls in the same bathroom as the people that they like. It could be weirdish, but maybe they could look at it as an advantage hey, when I was going to school, I still only, and let me be clear, only like women. But when I was in school, I did not have the ability to go, oh, I like women. I wish I can go in the girls' bathroom. If we did, it was a problem. I'm not saying that if you identify that direction, you shouldn't be allotted that, but I just think that it 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 okays people acting out a certain way when they don't even understand. I don't even think that a child at 12 years old, even though yeah they feel differently, the way I can't understand because I'm not. I don't understand because I'm not um, gay. So the way I tried to make it so that this is a platform so that we can all understand, to make things easier without so much waste, so without so much control. A lot of this is just like your name, sensible. It's common sense. I mean,
well, and that's the thing we need to bring, and that's the thing. It's about bringing all sides to the table. It just seems in Oregon we have this very, people will say liberal, far left. I get tired of the labels, but I don't care which side it's on. We have to make sure that we are including both sides. That's how we make great decisions, is when we have the opposing sides that can come together and figure out, hey, have you thought about this? Because for me just to push, how I feel like, well, no, this shouldn't be this way, and not take into consideration what someone says, we've gotten to the point where we are starting to make rules from the exceptions instead of making exceptions for the rules. Right. And so you have a small group of people that they have a valid need. Absolutely. But I do not believe that making it mandatory, that we financially support something that maybe they are in the exception category as far as their access. I was being told that, well, there's some school districts that just, they're not allowing these products to their students. Just like, okay, so instead of going after 197 school districts and making sure that we are going above and beyond to give access to everybody, whether you need them or not. How about, well, let's do some digging and find out where are those districts that were really having problems, and focus on them and make sure that they're giving the support to the students that their students need. But instead, it's like, nope, we're, as a state, we are going to take a stance and we're going to spend $5.5 million to do it. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's just like, you're in elected positions. The people that are making these decisions, I've been, terms and conditions, I get it. Who knows? You sign them, you sign off on them. But when you're an elected official, if you have bills going in front of you and the people who elected you should be reading them and ensuring what you are signing off on, you totally agree with and that your constituents support. And if they don't, you should be using your voice.
Yeah, everything, just the way that there's no longer separation between church and state. That is part of the problem. When we took the Pledge of Allegiance out and prayer out, everything started changing. Just like corporal punishment. I know it's a very touchy subject, but you know what? Corporal punishment doesn't have to be physical. It could be mental, not abusive, but a lot of what I think, like the school shootings and everything. So it's not that it wasn't happening in other schools. It's just social media has brought it to the forefront that now it's news. And it's no longer just in the minority schools, it's in all schools now.
Mhm.
So in some cases, I feel like, I mean, it's never too late, but in some cases, it's almost too late. Um, like I said before, as far as, and I know I'm kind of everywhere with it, kids, yeah, they at 11 and 12, they might think a little bit different or be wondering why they feel this way when they look at somebody. The best way that I can try to explain it, like, is when you look at your best friend, guy or girl, and you say you love them, if you're not, just because you say you love somebody of the same sex as you, doesn't mean you want to have sex with them. It just means, hey, man, if something happens to you, I'm going to be deeply hurt. I got lots of love for you as an individual. And I think at 10, 11, and 12, when all this is kind of not necessarily forced, but sex ed is introduced, it clouds their judgment on their feelings, because I don't think at their age they quite understand the difference. Because I'm sure if you told a 10 or 11-year-old who we're forcing this type of education on, hey, yeah, okay, so you have weird feelings about your friend because he thinks I love my friend because he's my best friend. He ain't thinking sex. But if you told a 10-year-old, hey, guess what? So you love him, huh? At 10 years old? So, and let me be blunt. So if there's kids in the room that shouldn't be listening to this, please get them out the room. But at 10 years old, if they said, oh yeah, I like, if a boy said, oh, I like boys, I wanna I wanna identify as a boy, or a boy that says I want to identify as a girl. Um, I think that if you said to him, "Oh," in accord as far as the boy that wants to be a girl, okay, so let's fast forward a few years. Now you're grown. This love that you have for this person, has it developed to the point now that you want to have sexual relations with them? And then maybe it dawns on them, sexual relations. No, I never even thought about that. Okay, so you just like your best friend. What's wrong with liking your best friend so much that, man, if got their back, but now sleep with each other. Because if you give them that at 10 years old and say, hey, so let me ask you a question. You know, as a boy being with another boy, um, if you're not trying to have sex with them because you have a penis and you'd rather, you identify as a girl, so then does that mean that you're going to take it in the butt? Or are you going to give him oral sex? And a 10-year-old is probably going to, 11-year-old, even probably a 12-year-old, if you're bringing them up right, is probably going to look at you like, are you crazy? Huh? What? Um, Oral sex? And I'm being nice about the way I put it, because I could be a little bit more vulgar on how so you plan on, you know, and how uncomfortable they would become, because
Mhm.
they haven't even thought that far, but now you're forcing that upon them.
Mhm.
Now, it's okay to want, just like, I'm not even going to go there.
We don't. It's. I'm sorry, but at the whole elementary level, you know, if I was in elementary, it should just be, I'm Sherry. You should not need to know what is underneath my clothes, and you should not need to know what I plan on doing with what is underneath my clothes.
Absolutely. In school, absolutely.
And so if, and bringing that down, and that's the thing, like some of the stories that have been going on, it's talking about what's in the curriculum, and that they've got books that are actually showing images of exactly what you were talking about going into our elementary schools. That is not, how is that going to make them productive citizens? I mean, we have kids that when you talk to the workforce, they're saying the kids are not coming out of school prepared to be in the workforce. You know,
Absolutely.
I've seen situations where, we have all these standards in Oregon, but knowing, the order of the months isn't one, but having some comprehensive sexual definitions or descriptions at an elementary level is. It's just like we really need to get that back to the reading, writing, math before we start branching out into supporting all sorts of other agendas or whatever they are. How about we get right what we were supposed to do? And that is reading, writing, and math. And we are, like you said, we are not number one.
They they took cursive out of the curriculum. How can you call education education if our children don't even know how to read the Constitution that was signed in cursive?
Mm-hmm.
They have no clue what the oh yeah, oh the argument, oh well, it could be printed out, but wait, even though you printed out the original Constitution could be
Mm-hmm.
manipulated and
Mm-hmm.
changed to fit somebody else's narrative. We see that all the time because that's why we have Supreme Courts, and just like the Roe v. Wade, I thought that was handled 50 years ago, but now it's not. I mean, I'm not going to take a stance, a hard stance on this subject just because I don't want to use this platform as something that I'm going to take a stance on because I don't want to scare any side away. I want both sides to come to the table. But I do lean a little, I lean towards women's rights. But with that being said, fathers' rights need to be appreciated. You know, there's a, when I was younger and there was a female that was pregnant and she lost the baby. She had a miscarriage. For me, that hurt me because that was the first child that I ever knew about. So for me, it was definitely something that made me go, man, what am I gonna, it hurt me. That wasn't a time that I had an opportunity to make a choice. So I can only imagine how somebody would feel that on his side, hey, I want this baby. And on her side, I don't want this baby. I know we can't afford this baby. And that should be a factor to a certain extent. But then if we decide, no, 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 it's not a factor, who's responsible to pay for that child? I know that we have programs and services, but at some point, we need to figure out a way to help get each other off because even the services that we have for parents or single parents is still flawed because if you want to give aid to an individual, if you're not getting cash aid, they're not going to go after the other parent for child support. So if you're just getting food stamps, they ain't tripping. They should go after them just as hard because they're obviously not standing up and taking care of their responsibilities. A lot of these things, I feel our children are just lashing out because I think when you give them the reality check of just like I said, so is your plan to be the top or bottom or whatever questions that they have no clue what we're talking about. We don't need to educate them of that yet. They at that age they still need to be children. They still need to play. I remember loving recess. I also remember being curious about the opposite sex or just in general. So for me, I understand there needs to be, but it shouldn't be so explicit.
Mm-hmm.
When my child was in, I want to say it was junior high school, his eighth grade year. I went to one of the parent, the first day of school, well, when you go to
Like an
sign up,
orientation.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
we go to sign up for all your classes, meet the teachers, and and they tell you the breakdown of the curriculum and all that. When one of the teachers, and I want to say it was a science teacher, said, "Yeah, one of the subjects that we're going to talk about is sex ed," and I said, "Okay, at eighth grade, yeah, I get it. Now, what else are we going to talk about?" And they said, "We're going to talk about homosexuality and all those other things that come along with that." And I said, "Well, if I object to my son going through this, what are the options?" They said the option is he could take an F for that particular class or that subject, and it will, affect his grade accordingly. And we can move on and he just won't get that, or he can take it. And I was like, wow, you're going to affect his grade because I don't want him to be forced to learn something that I clearly know my son does not want. And he clearly understands that there are other people out there that are different. He's not a basher. He's not going to go out there and bully and bash um, other children because they feel a certain type of way or they think a certain type of way. And that's the education that has to start with the parents. But people want to preach hate. And it doesn't necessarily have to be against another color. It could be after a race. It could be against, I just don't like your music. I just don't like the kind of cars you have. I just don't. I mean, there's so many reasons for people to have dumb reasons to hate that it's dumb. But for me, they why don't you try to find reasons to like, love, care, uh, respect, protect. Um, I mean, America says that built on land of the free, home of the brave. I mean, it's ironic that right now the bravest person I saw was the people that are going in and telling the truth, not a distorted truth, but the truth of what is going on and what needs to be going on. I thank you all the time that you tell me something that's going on in the school system, because even though you're in Oregon and I'm in California, what happens in Oregon or any other state, and this is why I said stand up or sit down and accept what's happening. Because if you don't stand up for your rights and what you believe in, eventually your rights will be trampled over here as well. I just don't believe that as a parent, anybody should tell me how to raise my child, as long as my child isn't out there hating or hurting other individuals. You know, it might sound weird, but even some of the hate groups, some of the points they have are very valid. But when you preach violence and hurt and try to maim and kill and force your views on people who don't necessarily share your same views, that's where the line has to be drawn. I mean, people are going to want to come to what they want to come to, and trying to overthrow is not the way. Go buy some land, run your thing to wherever you want, and have whoever be the people that have to interact with the people that you don't want, that have to come into your state to deliver your goods and services. Because anything and everything that we do in this life is handled by somebody who is not the same race as you or doesn't share the same sexual orientation. So it doesn't mean that you're bad, they're bad, or what we have is created bad. It just means somebody different than you did it. Right. I mean, sensibility and Sensible Chery was perfect, because some of these things are just so common sense. I just can't believe
that's the thing. Like, you don't, it's just like no one should be taking what they believe and forcing it on someone else. And so, but we can get to a point where, maybe I don't agree with you, but I can accept you. And so there's lines. And so that's when we need to come to the table and talk about those lines. And it's just like, okay, if this is how you feel, but this is too much for me. And it's just like, okay, so where can we get to a compromise where we're not completely divided and nobody is winning with that is going on right now.
Right.
Nobody is winning with all of this division. It's just like we have to get to the point where we can have reasonable conversations with both sides of any particular subject. Some of them are a little too dicey, but we've got to get to a point where we can start coming together on things and be like, what really does seem reasonable? And am I listening? Like, am I hearing you? Because if I'm missing something, like I had actually sent an email to Representative Ruiz, who was the one who sponsored the bill, and changed the verbiage in the last minute. I reached out trying to get some clarification. What am I missing as to why it is so important that we, take it to this extent when we have so many other financial needs in our state when it comes to education? And asked, what am I missing? And I have yet to get a response. But it appears that in the Oregonian, he responded to them saying that there was conversations with students in across the state. But the conversations with the students, it appears, at least the ones that were referenced in the article, like I said, Beaverton, Douglas District, and Portland, they're all within like 10 miles of one another. We're 98,000 square miles. But did you really reach out to all of rural, eastern, all of the states, and all of the students? Because we've got some students in our state that are very confused by what is going on, and they don't know what to do. They, that don't necessarily feel the same way as other students. And so in this idea of being inclusive, I am all for being inclusive. But when you start talking about identity and, how you identify, and we need to include all, we really aren't, because, like you were talking about church and state, we don't let the Bible into the school. And I'm on the side, it's just like, well, what about people that identify in Christ? If that's their identity, but they can't bring the Bible in school. And so, and that's the side, like, if you're not going to bring the Bible in school, then you need to be sure. And if you are going to be the Bible in school, you better bring all of the, it's just like it should be an all or nothing. You can't pick and choose, otherwise you're back to segregating and dividing. And it's like, who makes that decision? Right. So instead, it's just like, if we can't, we need to figure out where the balance is, so that no side is getting offended. And maybe that comes to a point where, instead of going above and beyond to include certain things, maybe we need to back up and be like, well, if we're not willing to include everything, then maybe we need to focus on priorities like reading, writing, math. Absolutely. Which is what our purpose is.
Absolutely. It it just boggles the brain that people out there are just making these kind of decisions with money that could be so much. I mean, teachers argue all the time that they're underpaid, and it's a double-edged sword on both sides. I feel, honestly, teachers are underpaid, but I also feel that teachers, not all teachers, okay, some teachers are very, very underperforming. Mm-hmm. I feel that there are some teachers that are just there to collect a paycheck. When I was going through school, I remember having teachers that a couple of teachers who just were there for a paycheck. I could see it. Alcohol in the drawer, and putting it in her coffee while she's sitting there talking to everybody in class, and not caring, and just saying, hey, just write in your journal today. That's it. Here, your spelling test is here, and it's 3 words. I mean, come on now. I know I didn't learn, and that was an English class. I think that back in the day when school was first enacted, they had it right. They taught the things that needed to be taught so that you can Trade school was in high school. You could learn a
Mhm.
trade when you left. Uh, they prepared them for life. Home economics. I remember kids out there, picture this. You walk into a classroom and there are 10, 12 ovens in your classroom. Imagine that, boys and girls, because they used to
Mhm.
teach you how to cook in
Right.
high school. So when you graduated, you didn't need anybody to be able to survive on the basic necessities of life. But now they just throw you out there with their views, and you have to maneuver your way through life. That's crazy. Uh, some type of basic trade needs to be enacted, but they don't want our children to be prepared for that kind of life. Even those basic skills would help just in their everyday life.
Mhm.
There are kids now that are growing up, don't even know how to change a tire,
Mhm.
check the oil, none of that. And boys and girls, hate to say it, but YouTube University, it might not be 100% correct, but I tell you, they will show you how to do certain things, or at least point you in the right direction. And if you use sensible thought, you could be able to overcome whatever issues that you have. You just need the basics of understanding. In school, we don't even get that
Yeah.
because
We are in the
history,
information age.
yeah.
And like I said, the only reason I even came across the statute and the rule that allowed me to petition against this was from doing a search, an internet search. And so I really would encourage parents and anybody who has concerns to not give up, figure out what you can do. Like if there's something that's concerning to you, people need to talk to there's so much backlash right now against parents, against school boards. But the reality of it is you need to know your school boards, you need to know your superintendents, you need to have conversations with them and see where they stand. Because unfortunately, I know not everybody is as vocal as I am. And I have had conversations with people that are on different boards that they just don't feel like their voice is going to make a difference. And so they don't necessarily go against the grain. And, for me, I know as a board member, I cannot speak for the entire board. That's our rule, and for us, we've got five. If three of us throw together, it's a quorum. It has to be a public meeting. But here's the deal. I know in my role, I have to respect the decision of the board, but that doesn't mean I blindly have to vote yes with my board if I don't agree. It's okay for me to vote no and the rest of them to vote yes. And guess what? I will support the decision as a whole that our board, made, but it doesn't mean that I agreed with it. People will know I didn't agree with it. And then the other side of that is by not agreeing with it, sometimes it puts a spotlight on the concerns you brought up, and they will be looked at.
Yeah.
And so, in order to, and that's what was so frustrating with seeing that this had gone through. I don't think anybody voted against it. And then nobody was willing to say no. And then there was this, well, either we didn't read it or all the Republicans voted yes, that kind of thing, because, it was the Democrat led choice. And it's just like, well, why didn't anybody just say no? Well, it's going to pass anything. I'm sorry. That is not a justifiable reason for not using your voice, because silence is compliance. And if nobody is speaking up against these things, everyone's like, it's just like you hear rumblings through social media of all these people disagreeing. But when it comes to the people that need to hear it, the people in positions of authority, our legislators, they're not hearing our internal bantering through social media. We have got to reach out to our representatives. You have to reach out to your school boards and say, hey, I don't agree with this. I was appointed last July. I've been on the board for over a year, and I was the parent who was making public comments all the time before I was appointed. I now on two hands can count how many people have written into me as a board member. Um, People just don't speak up. And we have to stop thinking that that nobody's going to listen. So many people think that nobody listens, that nobody's speaking, and that is why nobody is hearing.
Yeah. You know, um, that's why the title of this is Shit Talking. Shit talking doesn't have to be synonymous with negativity, because if you hit the lottery, you want to tell your friend. Sometimes it's just news. And if I can use this name to get you to pay attention, get you to listen, get you to be a voice. I mean, so, Sensible Chery just talks with common sense. I think if people just look, put aside your racial beliefs, your religious beliefs, your just all the beliefs that you have, and just understand and think sensibly about things that you cannot control. You can control everything that you do in your own home. Great. But when you force it on the general public, not everybody shares the same views. Not saying that you're right or wrong. I'm just saying that there's other ways. Find like-minded individuals, have a private school over there, and you could pay for it yourself if that's how you strongly feel about those issues. Maybe as a movement, as people, maybe you could find like-minded investors that are willing to invest into our children, because I know a lot of big investors are always looking for tax write-offs. So why don't you ask them, hey, why don't you can we get some money and maybe build bathrooms specifically for LGBTQ people? And that would,
and there's a gender neutral bathroom,
yeah,
in every,
and it's
in
supplied.
multiple places.
And
That,
it's
yeah.
supplied. Yes, I think that those options, instead of forcing your ideas, because then at some point when it gets to be, I'm not saying it's not accepted now, but the norm, then maybe then it would be incorporated. But right now, I think just a blanket K through 12, you guys gonna have, I mean, the issue that we're talking about,
Well,
tampons in both bathrooms, doesn't
and
matter.
even in California, I think they only did 6 through 12. And it sounds like, and I don't know the details, so nobody can quote me on this, but I think they had to make some amendments because they realized that the cost behind it was way more expensive than they had thought. I think that they do have a clause that says at least one boys' bathroom, which, like I said, I don't know why we have to go into the boys' bathroom. Why don't we make sure that there's a gender neutral bathroom? But it's just, this is so outrageous and irresponsible when it comes to our finances for our schools and respecting the money of taxpayers. That it just it's really causing me to look back and see really what are we doing, because the reality of it is I think that many of us, at least I'm guilty of this, I can't speak for anybody else, you know, over the until COVID, kind of, it's just like, oh, my kid goes to public school, this is great, yada yada yada. But now all of a sudden, these decisions that are being made for our student, it's just like, hold on, wait a minute, like the schools are starting to overstep. And I think that's what you're seeing right now in the news, like you were saying, is school choice is really becoming popular, because instead of right now, states, it's just like you get your school fund and it's based on the students, and that kind of thing, and the money doesn't follow the students, but a lot more states are starting to make these choices of, school choice where I want the money for my child to go where I want my child to go. So if you want your child in a private school, in a public school, or a homeschool, why shouldn't the money that is designated for your child for education
Follow your child.
follow them?
Right.
And for me, I do still believe in our school district. We're trying to do a lot of great things. And my whole stance on this is right now is, Oregon doesn't have school choice right now. But if we do, what can we do so that people want to bring their kids and have their kids in our school? Why does it have to be a competition between districts? Why isn't where you live so great that you just want your child to go to that public school?
Mhm.
And if there's other things, other layers of things that need to be added, I mean, it really should be, the public school should be an all inclusive and for everybody, but it shouldn't be pushing other things that are unnecessary. We have got to stick to the things that education was meant for.
Right. Those other
So,
things are things that maybe you could, or maybe the school system, instead of forcing a lot of these views, add it as an elective.
yeah,
If you add it as an elective and let people choose to take these classes, then
yep.
then the children can, I mean, give them a voice at very minimum. I don't even know if maybe that was even a consideration, that people even say, hey, you know what? That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. You bring up a great point. You know, parents have gotten so complacent that they, like you said, just send your kids to school. They're being taught, but not really realizing that the school board and the teachers, all their views are being pushed onto your children. So if you're not raising your children at home, the school system is raising them to be whatever they want them to be. And in some cases, I feel like they set them up for failure. If you're not involved as a parent, um, kids can easily just breeze through school with, I'll take these easy electives, not going to get me prepared for nothing in life. And then when I graduate, I am the kid that's going to be destined to populate the the prison system. Nah, you have to be active in your children's life. You have to be concerned about what classes they're taking. And I'd like to say that in most cases, they're banking on the fact that you don't care, so that maybe your child won't take a spot where they can get their kid in because they're smart enough to do it. A lot of these classes should be offered to all kids, but realistically, we know we can't afford to offer all classes to all kids because
Well, I don't know. I have to interrupt that because if we can ensure that we're putting feminine hygiene products in all schools, it's just like the reality of it is if they really want to ensure that our children have access to the stuff they need, obviously it can happen. And so maybe if we start redirecting some of these priorities and where money is being wasted, because these are just things that I've recently have come to light. And it's just like, well, how many things exist right now that we are wasting money on, that really could benefit our children in another way that would help them be successful in this life. And so I think that the light is started to shine. COVID was a huge awakening for a lot of people. That's when, I started, you start seeing what they're being taught. And it's like, what, that's when parents started having questions, and it's not going to go away.
right.
And so, it's now to the point where, I want, you need to be an involved parent, and I want to know what my child is learning and what you're trying to teach them. And I'm going to say something if it's something that I don't agree with.
Right.
And not to say that, I know that there's views that I may have that people don't agree with, and that's fine. But guess what? I am more than happy to have a conversation with somebody that has a totally different viewpoint than me. And it's like, let's talk about it. Where can we come to balance? Where what you want to teach your child and what I want to teach my child, that neither one of us is crossing a line that we shouldn't be.
Yeah. It's just such a tough thing. Even when I was on the school site council, and the way that that's run, I was fortunate enough to have a principal that I worked alongside with that was very pro children. She really tried to make a difference, and we need those. I just strongly feel that if you're getting into the education system because you have a passion for wanting to be a teacher, then don't just put your one foot in and say, yeah, I'm a teacher and you're doing this over here. I mean, dive in, educate, make a difference. That's why you were there. Stand up for what you believe in as a teacher. Yeah, if you can't be afraid to, as a teacher, when you see that things and the curriculum isn't the right way, stand up, say something. I'm not saying you have to strike, because not all school boards, not all teachers, maybe even their unions to some extent, or I'll just say they have ulterior motives. Some of it is to line their pockets or their friends' pockets. $5.5 million extra on tampons and these machines to utilize them. Somebody got a nice contract.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's not even, it's like, yes, it's extra from our schools, but it's not, it's like they didn't even pull that money from somewhere else. They took it out of our school fund that is meant to educate our children for this. It's like, and it's just like, why are you diverting funds in this way?
Yeah, ad funds. If you want that, ad funds.
Right.
Find the people.
Ad funds.
The people that are pressing for this. All right, now go find the funds, because look, the lottery, prime example. Wasn't the lottery created to add more funds to the educational system? But it seems like the more money that the lottery brings to the school system, the more money that the school system gets taken away from them. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it got more. I thought that, oh shit, with the lottery and the school fund, we should start seeing tremendous technological advances in our schools, because the amount of money that's being generated should be astronomical. No, it was quite the opposite. Now we're having to spend our budget on fences, policing, metal detectors, all this because we've gotten to the point where we have taken everything from children to the point they have nothing to do. They're bored. The YMCA is basically gone. You don't have any of these community centers that kids could go to. I remember being little and going, hey man, I'm going to the community center. Let's go hang out. There's a place that for $1 you could play and have a whole bunch of fun. Now, play, kids now, they're not getting no vitamin D because they're not in the sun. They're getting, basically computer babysitted. Everything is up. Go ahead, log on. And when they wake up, all right, log off. When they go to bed, and it's just a never ending, and the information that's being sent to them is so corrupt and tainted, and they do not understand what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And it's a shame. We need voices. We need parents to stand up.
Yeah.
You know, single parents, you need to unite. We can be mother fathers. You know what I'm saying? We could show them how much a mother father we can be. And I strongly suggest you stand up, just like Sensible Chery said.
Thanks for having me.
You know, oh, no, 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 no. Stand up and comply. I mean, stand up and for your rights, or sit down and comply.
Mhm.
And eventually you're just going to follow, you know, hey, bah, is that a better language for me to talk to you in? Bah, 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 bah. Because that's what's going to happen if you don't speak up. Okay. You're going to be the sheep that follow, and your children are going to have to follow in that direction. Um, I don't know. You people out there, Sensible Chery is going to keep us updated on our children. She's going to be the voice. Children out there, I mean, I'm not sure you should be listening to Shit Talking Sundays, but like I said, Shit Talking Sundays is not meant to be profanity, anything like that. When people say it's a curse word, no, a curse is something when I wish misfortune upon you and may your days be numbered and all that. That's a curse. Those are curse words. Yes, it may be profanity to a certain extent, but you know what? I got your attention. You guys are here, you're listening. I'm trying to get people to think outside the box. Sensible Chery has helped give me the tools to help you think just a little bit deeper. Principles. Think about this. You have the title, and literally, it gives you the title of principles. You are the key to standing up for our children's rights. They couldn't have named you guys a better title. Principles. You're the principal. Because if you don't stand up for our children's principles and what's right, who else will? If you have an agenda that is only preached by what a certain group wants to shuffle on, what good are you doing for the world? Think about that. The more we can't see eye to eye, the longer and the further apart we're going to be. We have to learn to agree to disagree. If you want to go left, there's always a person that wants to go right.
Mhm.
And vice versa. We can't always go straight, because if we do, yes, we'll get there faster. But you know what? We won't be able to take in new life experiences. If we follow the rule, I'm not saying that all rules are meant to be followed, but I'm not saying that all rules aren't. Sometimes it's okay to veer off, pull over, stop, look out, smell the coffee, be aware of what's going on around you. It's very easy for somebody who doesn't share the same views as you to get in a position of power and force their views on you, your family, more directly, our youth, our future. Because what we pump into them is what we're going to get 10, 20, 30 years from now. Look at all the laws that we've had and enacted in life that that have affected the way our children are acting now. Our children, because of some of the things that we have taken away from them, they've gotten complacent and just think that there's no there is no if you do something wrong, there's no what do you call it? I'm having a mind fart right now. Accountability. There's no discipline. There's no action that's going to be taken upon you. There's no consequences for your actions. Um, Everything we do today down the line is going to affect us in life. So just understand, um, don't be afraid to make a difference. Sensible Chery, for me, I thank you. Please don't stop being a voice. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen next week. Hopefully, I'm just going to let you loose. I'm going to introduce you and you just let us go and you talk. And even if it's short for a few minutes, it is what it is. But hey, let's make this happen.
Thanks for having me.
No. Thank you. Everybody out there, if you got something to say, email me, agthedad at shittalkingsundays.com. Sensible Chery, I can't wait to see you again next week. Same time, same place. 9 o'clock every moon day. Shit talking with Sensible Chery. Thanks, Sensible Chery. Stay blessed.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, everybody. For me, she is an amazing woman trying to do amazing things for our youth. And let me tell you, stand up, please. Please stand up. If you don't stand up for our children, no one will. We already see that Supreme Court is changing things that we were accustomed to, giving people their rights. Slowly, they're taking ours away. You need to think about it. How far do you want to go? How far do you want to take it? Do you want to control how your family develops, or do you want to be on autopilot? Think about that. I want to thank the Oregon mom, Sensible Chery, for coming out. I hope everybody learns something different, something new. Please think outside the box. Think a little deeper. Our youth, our children are our future. I'm AG the Dad, this Shit Talking Sundays. Shit Talking with Sensible Chery. Stay blessed, everybody. Peace.